internal weapons base that can carry guided and unguided weapons. Just like the F-35. The similarity includes the use of two tracking mirrors and a flat-faced optical window, with bottom fuselage placement just aft the radar radome, IHS Jane's Defense Weekly said. The Aviation Industry Corporation of China (AVIC) is trying to sell FC-31 as an alternative to Lockheed Martin's F-35 Joint Strike Fighter. Besides Chinese Air Force, Iran and Pakistan are understood to have shown some interest in this fighter jet. AVIC officials present at the Dubai Air Show hailed the aircraft's outstanding situational awarenesses and said that the FC-31 is designed for the demands of future battlefield environments. Most aircraft experts believe, though, that China's F-35 cannot compete with the American fifth-generation aircraft. But not much is known about the aircraft, which has derivatives of Russian engine at this stage. This aircraft first flew at the Zhuhai Air Show in China in 2014 and could reach full operational capability in 2024.
Contract announcement said. Boeing won the initial contract for the APORS project last year and hired B Systems as the primary subcontractor. Overall, the U.S. Air Force is vigorously upgrading the 1980s-era F-15 fighter by giving new weapons and sensors in the hope of maintaining air-to-air superiority over the Chinese J-10 equivalent. The multi-pronged effort not only includes the current edition of electronic warfare technology but also extends to super-fast high-speed computers, infrared search and track enemy targeting systems, increased networking ability and upgraded weapons firing capability. The Air Force plans to keep the F-15 fleet in service until the mid-2040s. Many of the F-15 systems date back to the 1970s and must be upgraded if the aircraft is to remain operationally effective. Various upgrades will be complete as early as 2021 for the F-15C ASA, active electronically scanned array, radar, and as late as 2032 for the various electronic warfare upgrades. The Air Force currently operates roughly 400 F-15C, D and E variants. A key impetus for the upgrade was well articulate in a congressional report on the US and China in 2014. US-China Economic and Security Review Commission www.usc.gov. Among other things, the report cited rapid Chinese technological progress and explained that the US margin of superiority has massively decreased since the 1980s. As an example, the report said that in the 1980s, the US F-15 was vastly superior to the Chinese equivalent, the J-10. However, Chinese technical advances in recent years have considerably narrowed that gap to the point where the Chinese J-10 is now roughly comparable to the US F-15. Air Force and Boeing developers maintain that ongoing upgrades to the F-15 will ensure that this equivalence is not the case and that, instead, they will ensure the superiority of the F-15. Among the upgrades is an ongoing effort to equip the F-15 with the fastest jet computer processor in the world, called the Advanced Display Core Processor, or ADCP. High-tech targeting and tracking technology is also being integrated onto the F-15, Gibbons added. This includes the addition of a passive long-range sensor called Infrared Search and Track, or IRST. The technology is also being engineered into the Navy F-18 Super Hornet. The technology can detect the heat signature, often called infrared emissions, of enemy aircraft. The system can simultaneously track multiple targets and provide a highly effective air-to-air targeting capability, even when encountering advanced threats equipped with radar jamming technology. IRST also provides an alternate air-to-air targeting system in a high-threat electronic attack environment. The F-15 is also being engineered for additional speed and range, along with weapons firing ability. The weapons carrying ability is being increased from 8 up to 16 weapons. This includes an ability to fire an AIM-9X or AIM-120 missile. In addition, upgrades to the aircraft include adding an increased ability to integrate or accommodate new emerging weapons systems as they become available. This is being done through both hardware and software for production aircraft. There are still a series of technical problems that need to be tackled on the J-20, including the reliability of its U.S.F-15 engines, and the plane's control system, stealth coat and hull materials and infrared sensor, a Chinese source close to the PLA told SEMP. China made the decision to operationally deploy the J-20 despite its technical problems because of the threat posed by Lockheed Martin F-35. According to the SEMP's source. Indeed, more of the stealth fighters are scheduled to join the plow later this year. It's urgent for China to show off its achievements as soon as possible, the source said. However, while Beijing is trying to rush the J-20 into service to counter the F-35, the Chinese machine is not likely to be a directly analog to the American jet or its stablemate, the Lockheed Martin F-22 Raptor. The J-20, which appears to be larger than Raptor, is more likely designed to attack the support elements that hold American air operations together, such as tankers, AWACS and JSTARS radar planes. Over the vast reaches of the Pacific, where fuel is at a premium, destroying a tanker could achieve the same result as shooting down an enemy fighter. China is developing the ramjet-powered PL-15 that could have a range as great as 120 miles. The PL-15 weapon has caused consternation within the top ranks of the U.S. Air Force, with Air Combat Command Commander Gen. Herbert Hawk Carlisle citing the Chinese weapon as one of the pressing reasons for the United States to develop a next-generation replacement for the decades-old AIM-120 AMRAAM. How do we counter that, and what are we going to do to continue to meet that threat? Carlisle asked during a speech at the Center for Strategic and International Studies in 2015. Later, during an interview with Flight Global, Carlisle said that countering the new Chinese missile was an exceedingly high priority for the US Air Force. The PL-15 and the range of that missile, we've got to be able to outstick that missile, Carlisle said. Indeed. The problem is not just that the PL-15 would outrange the AMRAAM, when coupled with the J-20. The Chinese could attack the tankers and ISR aircraft that would be the key enablers during any air campaign over the Pacific. A 2008 RAND briefing suggested that in order to sustain F-22 operations over Taiwan from Guam, the US Air Force would need to launch 3 to 4 tanker sorties per hour to deliver 2.6 million gallons of fuel. That's a fact that has not likely escaped Beijing's notice. While there is not much concrete data available about the J-20, the aircraft appears to have been optimized.
Angshanba Airfield, the J-20 is a large multi-role fighter, with stealthy features similar to those found in the American F-22 and F-35. Although very little is known about its intended purpose, the aircraft appears to offer capability in a number of roles, including long-range interception and precision attack. In terms of weapon carriage, the J-20 has a similar arrangement to that of the Lockheed Martin F-22, comprising 2 lateral bays for small air-to-air missiles, such as the Agile, imaging infrared PL-10, and a large under-fuselage bay for accommodating larger missiles and precision-guided surface attack weapons.
Munitions. Sino-Soviet friendship ended in an ugly breakup around 1960. But in 1962, the Soviets offered China a dozen hot new MiG-21 fighters as part of a peace overture. Beijing rejected the overture but kept the fighters, which were reverse-engineered into the sturdier, but heavier, Chengdu J-7. Production began slowly due to the chaos of the Cultural Revolution, but between 1978 and 2013 Chinese factories turned out thousands of the pencil fuselage jet fighters in dozens of variants. Nearly 400 still serve in the plug-and-play NAF. The J-7 is a 1950s-era hot rod in terms of maneuverability and speed. It can keep up with an F-16 at Mach 2, but it cannot carry much fuel or armament, and it has a weak radar in its tiny nose cone. Still, China has worked to keep the J-7 relevant. The J-7G introduced in 2004 includes an Israeli Doppler radar, detection range, 37 miles, and improved missiles for beyond visual range capabilities, as well as a digital glass cockpit. These aircraft would struggle against modern fourth-generation fighters that can detect and engage adversaries at much greater ranges, though hypothetically mass formations could attempt to overwhelm defenders with swarm attacks. Still, the J-7s allow China to maintain a larger force of trained pilots and support personnel until new designs come into service. Another Soviet-era clone is the Xi'an H-6, a twin-engine strategic bomber based on the early 1950s-era Tu-16 Badger. Though less capable than the U.S.F-15 or Russian Tu-95 Bear bombers, the air-refuelable H-6K remains relevant because it could lug heavy long-range cruise missiles, hit naval or ground targets as far as 4,000 miles from China without entering the range of air defenses. The H-6 was originally tasked with dropping nuclear weapons, but the PLF no longer seems interested in this role. Xi'an is reportedly developing a new H-20 strategic bomber, though there's little information available so far. In the mid-1960s, China began working on genuinely home-designed combat jets, leading to the Shenyang J-8 debuting in 1979. A large twin-turbojet supersonic interceptor that could attain Mach 2.2 and resembled a cross between the MiG-21 and the larger Su-15. The J-8 lacked modern avionics and maneuverability. However, the succeeding J-8-2 variant improved on the former with an Israeli radar and a new pointy nose cone, making it a fast but heavy weapons platform a bit like the F-4 Phantom. Around 150 are still operational. The 200-plus Xi'an JH-7 Flying Leopards, which entered service in 1992, are beefy two-seat naval attack fighter bombers that can lug up to 20,000 pounds of missiles and have a top speed of Mach 1.75. Though they wouldn't want to get in a dogfight with opposing contemporary fighters, they may not have to if they can capitalize on long-range anti-ship missiles. The Chengdu J-10 Vigorous Dragon, by contrast, is basically China's F-16 Fighting Falcon, a highly maneuverable, lightweight multi-role fighter leaning on fly-by-wire avionics to compensate for its aerodynamically unstable airframe. Currently dependent on Russian Al-31F turbofans, and coming several decades after the F-16 debuted, the J-10 may not seem earth-shaking. But the J-10B model comes out of the box with 21st-century avionics such as advanced infrared search and track systems and a cutting-edge active electronically scanned array radar, which cannot be said for all F-16 types. However, the fleet of 250 J-10s has suffered several deadly accidents possibly related to difficulties in the fly-by-wire system. After the dissolution of the Soviet Union, a Russia starved for cash and no longer concerned about ideological disputes was happy to oblige when Beijing came knocking at the door asking to buy then state-of-the-art Sukhoi Su-27 fighters, a highly maneuverable twin-engine jet comparable to the F-15 Eagle with excellent range and payload. This proved a fateful decision. Today a sprawling family of aircraft derived from the Su-27 form the core of China's modern fighter force. After importing the initial batch of Su-27s, Beijing purchased a license to domestically build their own copy, the Shenyang J-11, but to Russia's dismay, began independently building more advanced models, the J-11B and D. Moscow felt burned, but still sold 76 modernized ground and naval attack variants of the flanker, the Su-30 MKK and Su-30 Mk2 respectively, which parallel the F-15E Strike Eagle. Chinese designers also churned out their own derivative of the Su-30, the Shenyang J-16 Red Eagle, boasting an ESA radar, and the Shenyang J-15 Flying Shark, a carrier-based fighter based on a Russian Su-33 acquired from Ukraine. Around 20 now serve on China's Type 001 aircraft carrier Liaoning. There's even the J-16D, a jamming pod-equipped electronic warfare fighter styled after the U.S. Navy's EA-18 Growler. The Chinese Sukhoi derivatives are theoretically on par with the fourth-generation fighters like the F-15 and F-16. However, they are saddled with domestic WS-10 turbofan engines, which have had terrible maintenance problems and difficulty producing enough thrust. Jet engine tech remains the chief limitation of Chinese combat aircraft today. Indeed, in 2016 China purchased 24 Su-35s, the most sophisticated and maneuverable variant of the flanker so far, likely to obtain their Al-41F turbofans engines. In a remarkably short time frame, China developed two distinct stealth fighter
nozzles and interior flaps for manipulating the exhaust flow. Once these new J-20s enter service, China will have comprehensively mastered the major parts of fighter technology, including radars, stealthy fuselage, missiles, computers, and engines. The WS-10A, which powers the J-11 heavy fighters, is China's first operational low-bypass, afterburning turbofan engines. Aerometh. Both prototype and production models of the J-20 fighter currently rely on an advanced variant of the Russian L-31 turbofan engine. Using this tech since the fighter's first flight in 2011 has put China at the mercy of a single, foreign supplier. But not for much longer, it seems. Photos of the new Chinese J-20, production number 2021, reveal turbofan engines that clearly belong to the W.S-10 Taihang, built by Shenyang Liming. Among the shared features are the semicircle of small flaps, vanes for controlling exhaust flows on the inner nozzle, and wider afterburning, variable geometry petals. The Russian Salyut AL-31 does not have those features. Additionally, the WS-10X, possibly officially designated WS-10G or WS-10 NIPE, has sawtooth serrations on the edges of its afterburning nozzles, like the F-35's F-119 engine. The sawtooth edges provide a gain in stealthiness, as they redirect radar waves away from the nozzles. The straight edges on non-stealthy engines like the AL-31 are major contributors to the radar cross-section of a fighter. In addition to the gains in stealth, the WS-10X is believed to provide about 14-15 tons of thrust. This may be enough power to allow the J-20 to engage in low supersonic supercruise at Mach 1.2 speeds. The Eurofighter Typhoon has a similar low supercruise capability, which means it can hit supersonic speeds without using fuel-thirsty afterburners. The gains in engine connect to broaden use in material.